All right, dear speakers, so we are live on our Facebook page, YouTube channel. So happy to see you, even virtually, and thank you very much for joining us. So I think we have to wait a few seconds, just our viewers can join us. It takes some time. So before we start our session, just want to ask you, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Hello, everybody. Nice to be here.
Hello,
Great.
welcome to our session.
Yeah.
Yes, our first viewers already join us. Hello, everybody, dear friends, teachers, educators. Thank you for joining our session and welcome to our English Language Teachers Corner. And today we are going to talk about how project learning can future-proof your students. The session is dedicated to English Language Week. And first of all, let me introduce our guest speakers, English language specialist, Jill Tyson. I think you all know her because we had amazing session with her before. So she is English language consultant. The next speaker is Mirgul Isakova. She is senior instructor of Osh
Hello.
State University and Access program teacher. And the last but not least, Aytbebe Abde Ibrahima. So she is ESL teacher and one of the winner of National English Olympiad. So it's so exciting to have you today, and it's gonna be very interesting, I think, discussion. So just want to remind the friends, so don't forget to send your questions during the live, and after the presentation, I will read them to our speakers. So thank you very much, and let's start our session. And I want to give the virtual flow to Jill.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, Jill.
Okay, great. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you again for inviting me to talk about one of my favorite themes in current methodology, and that's project-based learning. So I've talked about this a lot. It's one of my favorite themes. I think it is one way for sure that we can future-proof our students and our learners. And today we're going to look a little bit deeper into what exactly maybe the genesis of project-based learning, some history and theory behind it, and then maybe that we'll understand how using projects with your students can really help future-proof your students and what that means. So let's get started. You know, it's always been a challenge for teachers to prepare their students for the future. I mean, that's like what we do. We're not studying just for no end. We're studying so that our students and our learners can be better prepared for their own futures in whatever career that they choose. So this challenge is nothing new. We've always been preparing students for the future. I saw this recently, that 65% of children entering primary school were going to end up in jobs that don't even exist yet. I had to read it 3 or 4 times, and then I Googled it, and I was like looking, and actually it's 65% that these jobs don't even exist. So if the job doesn't exist, but we're in the classroom with our students, then how can we know that the content of our lessons is really going to future-proof and help the students that we teach? So Harvard University was thinking about this a long time ago. They were actually thinking about a variant of what we would call problem or project-based learning, and they called it case method as early as 1920. So maybe you've heard of the Christensen School of Business at Harvard. And Roland Christensen described CASE method like this. Listen carefully because it sounds like project-based learning. He said it's the art of managing uncertainty. It's a process in which the instructor serves as a planner, host, moderator, devil's advocate, fellow student, and judge, all in search of solutions to real-world problems and challenges. The principles and techniques are developed through collaboration and cooperation with friends and colleagues, through self-observation and reflection. Doesn't that sound like project-based learning? Yes. So as early as 1920, one of the best universities, if not the best university in the whole entire world, had this idea that connecting what you learn in the class with real life was a good idea. And Harvard has even gone farther in this. And in 2011, they began a program that was called Field Immersion. And so with Field Immersion, it was this practice and development. The idea that this theory it only becomes knowledge when you apply it. And this is what we want to do, even in a lecture classroom. We want to lecture, we want to tell our students, and we want them to be able to use whatever learning, whatever knowledge they have in their head. It needs to be used. So this idea at Harvard University, again, of field immersion, we can call it action learning, we can call it experiential learning, we can call it field learning, call it whatever it is. It was a great idea. And it is a good idea, and it looks like project-based learning. So two of the major themes in field immersion and case learning was teamwork. It was predominantly, most of the business in the real world gets today done in teams. How many of you work together in a team in your job? Probably all of you. I know in the work that I do now as an English language consultant, I'm working with a team for this project. I'm working with another team in this project. We're all working in teams, most of us. And working together in teams is not something that comes really easy. And starting kids early, starting your learners early and working in teams is a great idea. Also, like this field immersion model from Harvard includes real problems, and it deals with not just like straight, what's in the textbook, like, here's the plan, and here's exactly how it should go, and here are the exercises you should do. Life is not like that. And because life is not like that, we should be more involved in teaching our students, like, more about the messiness of the real world. And we can really do this in projects. So problem-based learning, that's the other PBL. So we talk about project-based, and we have problem-based as well, as you've heard of. And problem-based learning is a subset of project-based learning. Problem-based learning was originally introduced at medical school in Canada in the late 60s. And now, as you know, problem-based learning is also being used as a method in many other disciplines, not just medicine or medical school, but even in English classes. It uses triggers from real-life problems and defines its learning objectives through inquiry and asking questions to keep furthering knowledge and potential solutions. So, like, I'm giving you all this background because I want you to know that when you attend a training and you hear about project-based learning and you go, wow, that's something new. It's not, guys. It's not new. It's just different. It's different than the textbooks that we've been working from. It's different than what we maybe even learned in university about how to, start a lesson, and it looks very clean. Your lesson plan is one sheet, and project-based learning is a little messier than that, but it's not new. I want you to know that. So I told you that some of these other types of learning come under this umbrella of project-based learning. So problem-based learning is one of those, field learning, inquiry-based, experimental, action learning, and case-based. All of these come into this big umbrella of project-based learning. Call it whatever you want. If you're putting together the theory with the practice in some way. So how we put together a project may look different, but it's more about the skills that are used to put it, whatever it is, together. So if I give you, for example, 12 Legos, pieces of Legos, and I say for you to like put together, make it look like a duck, then maybe you're going to make it, maybe your duck isn't going to look like your partner's duck, or your duck is going to look, your duck may look different, but you're using the same skills to put this duck together. It could be you're making a brochure. Well, you know that the brochures are not going to be the same. Some people are going to have big font. Some people are going to use little font. Some people are going to use dark pictures. Some are going to use light. So the project is going to look different, but it's not about just the final project. It's also about how it is put together, however it is put together, using these skills. So simply put, project-based learning is taking something you learn in the classroom and putting it into practice. What does project-based learning teach? Humility. You didn't expect me to say that, did you? Humility? Yeah, because you know why? Teachers, you begin to understand that you don't know what you don't know. You give a project and you make a plan, and you even have to plan the process. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you start finding out when you're working in projects that you don't know a lot. And then guess what else? It sparks your interest in learning more. Okay, I think like following my presentation, you're going to hear about 2 incredible projects that maybe also sparked interest in knowing more about whatever it is the project was. Sometimes projects end with questions. Sometimes they end with, next time we need to do this. They're always sparking something. And so you didn't expect me to say humility, I think, but sometimes as teachers, like we put a project out, we think we have a good idea, and suddenly we are faced with the fact that we don't know a lot about whatever this topic is, and we need to anticipate that a little bit. So here's some considerations. Students need to have skin in the game. Maybe you've heard this like idiom. It's a slang, like to say you have skin in the game means you've got, like, you're in it, like this. You've got your sleeves up, you've got your hands dirty. In a project, teachers need to always include individual contribution statements. Every project I ever did with my students at the University of Tennessee included an individual contribution statement, because that, to me, is at least half of the project, is having students reflect and understand what role they were playing in a project. So students have to have skin in it. They have to be involved in it. And then you can consider this as well. Is project-based learning part B? Because usually what I mean by that is you have part A. Here's the pretty project. And then part B is often you think you think one thing is going on, and then you start to understand systems on a deeper level. For example, let's say you took your students, the project was to go pick up trash in your neighborhood or something like that. So you're picking up trash, and then you start to ask yourself, why is there so much trash here? Maybe we don't have enough trash bins. Maybe there's too much packaging on local like items that we're buying. Maybe we need more education about like conservation. I mean, you start asking like a deeper level what's going on, which becomes kind of a part B, which also like increases your knowledge and understanding your systems on a deeper level. Consider this. Projects don't always follow the script. And they always include learning that which was not in the script at all. And I'm sure that Ivabu and Murgal will speak to that as well. Sometimes you learn things, often you learn things in a project that you didn't plan to learn. And so that can be really good. And then I want you to consider this too, that you can do an internal project. A lot of people say, well, that was just something small. I don't really call that a project because we didn't make that much impact. It was only in our class. But don't think about it like that, teachers. Think about it like this. A project can be internal. It can be in the class. It can be in your local school. It can be local. You can use your community for a project, your oblast, or your whole country. And your project, especially today, can be global because we have Zoom. You can cast out that net as far as you want on a project. The sky is the limit, which is another really great thing about projects. But, for getting started, I would suggest start small. Now, some teachers have challenges with projects. And some of the challenges are this. Back to Harvard. I don't know if you remember, but in that first quote, it said that the instructor serves as planner, host, moderator, devil's advocate, fellow student, and judge. So the instructor is, where do you see here lecturer? Where do you see here like, sage on the stage? You don't. You don't. So we have a lot of different roles when we're planning projects, which is a little bit intimidating, I think, sometimes for teachers just getting started in project-based learning. So projects must be broken into steps and phases. And sometimes planning is more difficult with a project. It's definitely easier for you to just open your textbook in the morning and say, okay, we stopped with this exercise. I'm going to start with this one today. I mean, that's the easy and bad way to continue to future-proof your students. But if you want to think about the future for your students and giving them the skills that they need to succeed in tomorrow's world, then you need to do a little bit more. We need to change, we need a paradigm shift. We need to understand that that planning is a little more difficult sometimes when we're planning projects. Another thing that teachers don't really like is that the project becomes the force. And what I mean by that is instead of you, now your students and the project are like the driving force in your class, and you take third place. So you take some of these roles like planner, which is very important, most important, host, moderator, devil's advocate, fellow student, and judge. This is third place, guys. So the project and the students, the learners are driving this project, and you're not out of the picture, but you're third place instead of first. Teachers don't like that sometimes. Working with what you have sometimes is a limitation. Sometimes you might have a good idea that might go along with a project, but you're limited on resources. You know what? This is my third academic year in Kyrgyzstan, and I have seen teachers do incredible things with limited resources. So even though this is a challenge, I have no doubt that at least the teachers in Kyrgyzstan that are listening can pass this challenge, with time, money, material limitations. You guys know how to do a lot with a little, and that's it's wonderful and creative. And so you have to be a little bit creative sometimes, which, by the way, is another objective for future-proofing our students. And when you model creativity in the projects that you do, if you model that for your students, it's much easier for the students to also like open their mind and be a little more creative. So let's keep looking. Teachers, another challenge sometimes with projects is that you have to give up the learning agenda control. You know, you make a plan with goals, and you have to let that go a little bit, because like I said, you know, in point 2, the project kind of drives itself. And how we said in previous slides, sometimes you begin a project with one objective in mind, and then you start to see that like it's taking on a life of itself, or you can understand a deeper system that you need to follow up and you need to do more, or the learning like is a little bit different. The outcomes are a little bit different. Sometimes we have to give that up. And so that's a little intimidating sometimes for teachers. Projects are, and to follow that and going along with that, projects are a little ambiguous sometimes. You know, we don't always know the outcomes. And teachers, we like to know outcomes. You know, I mean, that's, you know, we like to like give our students vocabulary, and we need to see them use it. You know, we like that. And sometimes projects are a little bit ambiguous. So that might beg a question, how to assess a project. So I get this question all the time. And I'll give you a good like blanket statement that I think is great to start with. You might start on 50-50. Okay, 50 would be that individual contribution, and 50% would be to the project whole, whatever the project is. If it's like an event, okay, well, if the event is successful, then it's a good grade, it's a good assessment. If it isn't, then, you know, you have to count in like the reflection on that, and then, you know, make some rubric to decide. But 50% of this project, I would recommend, would be an individual contribution statement. You know, having students either daily or weekly log or verbally express somehow in a skill, use their English skills to talk about or to write about how they are contributing to whatever it is the project they're doing. So that's a good way to just start like thinking about assessing projects. And then finally, a challenge in a project sometimes can be that you need to be interested. So this is not like, you know, when you're in the class, sometimes you think you need to light yourself on fire and be, you know, like interesting, and you need to always have games, and you need to have this, and you're performing on the stage. But, you know, I think you know that like, it's not that you need to be interesting. It's that you need to be interested. You need to be interested in these projects, and you need to be interested in each group and how they're doing. And sometimes that's a little bit exhausting. It depends on if it's a big project or a small project. So if you have a small project, it's usually manageable. Like you're checking into this, you're interested in all the students' progress. But if it's a long-term project or a big project that has many components, sometimes we lose interest. We're like, okay, like this thing is driving itself, point 2. It's become a force. Students are working here, students are working here, students are working here. I'm going to watch TV. No. So that's another challenge for teachers and faculty, is that we have to be interested, and we need to stay interested in the groups that are happening, in the teams, and what's happening within the project. So let's look at outcomes. So outcomes, whatever emerges, we can capitalize. We can have a lecture about conflict all day long, but until you put a team together and they have a conflict, they might even not learn it, right? How boring to have a lecture, you know, for an hour on what it means to have conflict. Well, just put some kids together and there you got a conflict, right? Usually. And you can solve this conflict, you can work through it. So whatever emerges in a project, whatever problems come up, whatever issues like you need to get around, if you need to be creative, if you ran out of money, you know, whatever it is, you don't have the materials you need, you know, like if you're doing it, students will learn it. They'll learn it. Another outcome is a theme of adaptability. That's an underpinning. It holds up a project being adaptable, and we all need to be more adaptable. So this is a skill that, like, even though like it might be a challenge and kind of hard for us sometimes, it's a skill that we need to learn. And from Harvard again, let's go back to Harvard. Objectives are met through collaboration and cooperation with friends and colleagues, and through self-observation and reflection. So up until now, I haven't talked about reflection, but reflection is like one of the very most important parts of project-based work. And the reason is because we can't think that if we go into anything the first time, we're going to like perfect it. Every time there's going to be a reflection, we need to think about like what worked well, what didn't work at all, what kind of things we need to change, what can we tweak here, what can we do more of there. So every time we need to reflect on our learning. Even now I'm talking more about like the process, but let's talk more. I mean, we also need to reflect on the learning that happened. So whether it is like identifying trees in your region, or learning English vocabulary for tourists in your city or town, you need to check the academic reflection as well. Did students learn what we set out to learn? Do they know this vocabulary? Can they talk with tourists? Can they name those trees? Do they know whatever it is that your academic and your content goals were? And then also reflecting on the process. So you see how it's deep, because you can sometimes learn about a process. You're learning more about the process, so that when you set another project in place, then you already have a good basis for like you can anticipate, and it informs how you can plan and go through the process of the next project. And if the students in the class are staying the same, then they're also kind of learning in how to work again in teams and in projects. Even though it's brand new content, they're going to keep maturing in the way that they know how to work together. And that's super important. Oh, last outcome, a great project. Whatever if it was an event or concert or a brochure or just knowledge about a certain theme, hopefully your outcome will be a great project. So most of you in Kyrgyzstan, at least I know now, are face-to-face going back to school. Congratulations on that. I think that's wonderful. I know in a couple of regions that there's still some online classes, and that's important to stay safe and healthy. But teachers sometimes might ask, like, how can, like online or offline, what about doing projects? There are a lot of things you can do. You can research a company. You can look into a career. You can run a comparison. You can, and this is like offline, but you could like do a survey at the bazaar. You could get some bones from the slaughterhouse. I'm only saying this because this is a project I did with my kids. Nobody believes it, but yeah, I went to the slaughterhouse and we got long bones and we got short bones and we got like different kinds of bones. And yeah, it was an interesting project. But, it depends if it's an English class or if it's a biology class or whatever it is. But there are a million kinds of projects that can be done. Half of these you can do like online. Some of them you can't, and so it's not hard to think of online or offline projects. And so that's another reason why, how we can like future-proof our kids, because we know whatever lies in the future, if there's another virus, if there's anything that's like going to shut down schools, we can keep going in this. So we don't have to like stop, we don't have to stop or like put our, suddenly like send our kids' workbook pages on WhatsApp. We can think of a good project that's within our theme that we can do online, and it's not that hard. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of times we think of projects, and I think you're going to see some slides later that are going to show, yeah, I need to finish, but that are going to show that, projects are like kids sitting around the table. And it's not just sitting around the table with poster board and sticky notes. It's like we can collaborate online. We can collaborate using Padlet. We can use Google Classroom, Miro. It's a collaboration team building application. There are lots more. So do these things. If you're teaching content, maybe most of you are English teachers. I'm not sure who you are out there, but if you're English teachers, ask yourself this question: How does my community or the real world need English? How could English be a benefit here? And maybe you can answer that question. Maybe you're a biologist, ask that same question. Historian, ask the same question. How does my community need my skill? What I have to teach, how can I use that even in my school, if you want to keep a scope small? How can it benefit all of our students, my knowledge? How can we take the content of my class and benefit our community, school, or world? Also, mind the experience for the learning that's happening. It might not always, again, look exactly pretty or how you expect, but really, really pull what you can from what is happening. And then thirdly, we don't talk about this a lot, but a lot of students are unaware of resources that are available. They don't know about things like American Corners. They don't know about computers that are there at American Corners. They don't know about American English Online. They don't know about some other sites that they can do research. They don't know sometimes about the books in their own school library. And doing projects with your students really helps open their eyes, with your help, to what resources are available in your community. Have I convinced you to do projects? I hope so. I'm out of time, but I want to just do, I don't want to show you all of this on the slide, but I want to just show one at a time these skills. Okay, and let me tell you where I got these skills. I synthesized a lot of articles. I've been reading a lot of articles about tomorrow, educating for tomorrow, future-proofing our students, just like thinking about like what education we need to be giving, because we need to know. And so like anytime you're writing a curriculum, like you need to not just take in mind today, but you need to think about tomorrow. So I was synthesizing a lot of different articles in writing. And here are the skills that kept coming up. Students tomorrow need to be able to strategize. They need to be able to plan steps and have actions and goals. Tomorrow, students need to be able to lead and manage teams and assign and carry out tasks. Tomorrow, students need to analyze and think creatively, and they need to be good at analyzing and problem solving. They need to be able to communicate effectively. They need to organize and manage time well. Students need to have pride and passion in their work and a strong work ethic. They need to believe in what they're doing. And they need to be good listeners, someone who is open to feedback. What do these skills remind you of? They remind us of skills we can get in projects. So these are all skills. All of these skills are the skills that I synthesized from reading probably more than a dozen articles. And these are skills, if we do projects, that can really future-proof our students for tomorrow's world. So thank you very much. I'm finished with my part of the presentation. We have two more incredible educators in Kyrgyzstan to share with us.
Awesome presentation, Jill. You convinced me to do projects. Thank you very much. And thank you for mentioning American Corners as a great resource. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to give a virtual floor to Aytbübü Abdi Ibrahimo. So please.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Miss Aida. Thank you very much for your invitation to be a guest speaker in your live session today. I'm very happy to share my experience as an English as a second language teacher in Kyrgyzstan. And I agree with Miss Aida. Miss Jill's presentation was so informative and engaging. Thank you so much. And now let me share my screen. And
So I just wanted to remind, yes, we started to receive a lot of questions and comments. So I will read them after all presentations when they will be delivered. So please continue to ask. So don't worry, we won't miss any questions and comments. Thank you very much.
now, ladies, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see
Yes?
your screen. Yes, it works.
Okay, great. Now let me start my presentation now. Or is it possible to start, Ms. Aida, or are you going to continue your question and answer part?
No. We will read all questions after the presentations. I mean.
After the presentation, right? Okay. Sorry for interruption. So, dear our live session participants, my presentation is called Project-Based Learning Among Elementary Students. And I taught the parts of body among elementary students, third grade students at one of the private schools in Bishkek. So, guys, in our Facebook page, if you see the comments on Facebook, there is a question. There is a link for Padlet page, and you are welcome to leave your answers to my question. My question is, why do you think we need to learn new vocabulary for a week? Would be great if you can type your answers. In order not to waste my time, I will move on, and I'll come back to these questions a little bit later. So my project was lasted for 5 days, and as you see from my PPT, its key outcomes for Monday was where students were able to make shape of human body from A4 papers, as you see on my screen, and students were able to sing Head and Shoulders song, and they learned new vocabulary from that song, and they wrote down on their A4 body shape those vocabulary. And now let me show you that video, how my students were singing that song. Okay, so this was a short video from that project. And on that day, I gave them to draw body parts with English names until Friday. And I gave them special criteria to assess their drawing. This was the rubric that I used in my project. And then, as you see from these pictures, I've got different kinds of pictures from my students. And within 5 days, my students were able to learn, as I above mentioned, this song, and also they improved their pronunciation skills, and also they learned parts of body in the English language. In addition to this, they demonstrated their drawing skills, and within 5 days, they were able to use different kinds of digital tools like Edpuzzle and Quizlet.com to revise those vocabularies. And they also had teamwork, which was named I Love My Body. And as you see, my students draw different kinds of pictures, and it was team work. They wrote, I love my body, and they demonstrated how they really love their body. Now I want to go back to my Padlet page. I see just one posting. Okay. Unfortunately, but that's okay. Why I would like to ask this question is because to learn English, new English word and vocabulary within one lesson, it's impossible, especially among young learners. They have to revise their vocabulary again and again. And within 5 days, they revised with the help of different kinds of activities, exercises, group work, individual works, and also why I chose this topic for project-based learning approach, because as you know, even among adults, not only young learners, we have a big issue, like we don't accept our body the way it is, right? We all the time criticize, oh, I don't like my hair, I don't like my eyes, I don't like my nose, it's horrible, it's terrible, and we will have lots of depression because of that. And I would like to address those issues in our project, and I'd like to teach my students to love their body the way it is. And they were supposed to learn also English vocabulary in the topic of parts of body. And this is how we use project-based learning approach in my practice. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer.
I want to follow. I want to ask you, I think this is a great example of what we were discussing before, where your objective was to teach vocabulary, but body parts. But then you could see that like there's a much deeper meaning here, like about body acceptance, and so this is just another great example of why project learning is really good.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bubu. I fall in love with the song, and I really love your campaign, like love yourself. I think it's I don't know, it's really amazing. Thank you very much for sharing your project. And now I would like to give virtual floor to Mirguli Sakova.
Okay, thank you so much. So let me share the screen. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm really impressed with IPBU's project-based learning sharing, and I like the activities, the pictures there, the kids there. And so I agree with Jill that project-based learning is not something new. It is something different, but it's very engaging, motivating, and inspiring at the same time. And in the comments below, I read Heidi de Mello's comment that project-based learning is very close to Bloom's taxonomy pyramid. So it gives all 4 C's of the 21st century learning, like critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity. So what I want to talk about is that Lingua Foundation conducts methodology trainings to the English teachers throughout the country. And recently we had methodology training for the English trainers on the book, national book, английский язык for the 5th grade. And their task was there to conduct a project-based learning taken from this book. And here, as you see, there were different topics on project-based learning, like making a brochure, presenting analysis, making films. And actually, I liked all of them. For example, here you can see Chukwa Bones. This is Kyrgyz national game. After presenting this game, so teachers can conduct project-based learning with the students, and students can choose another sport or another game and make presentation. One more was there about lights, camera, action. In this project, so students could make a film or make poster about their favorite films or maybe some trend films. And so I looked through the projects, and I have chosen this one about tourist sites and making a brochure. And as I have as I worked in Access Micro Scholarship Program, I decided to try this project with my Access students who were from 13 to 16 years old. And so it was a very interesting project for them as they were very excited to research about their favorite countries, about favorite tourist sites. And before starting the project, we had some activities. First, we discussed some places from this book. And so in the book, they were given some sites, and we discussed about them. So students mostly wanted to talk about Eiffel Tower, and it was a very interesting topic with them. And so, and they were provided with a brochure about the Eiffel Tower, and they were given some tasks, and using this brochure and the text from the book, they found answers to their questions. Later on, we worked on some vocabulary connected with the sites, with traveling. And then they were given the steps how to make a brochure. And they were given some instructions and some sources, and were divided into several groups and started to work on their projects. Of course, it was not done in one day, so we worked on this for about a week, but there was some deadlines in the training. That's why we had to finish in a week. But of course, for the project, we can take more time, maybe 2 weeks or more, and it depends on the topic also. So, and here you can see the works of our students. So they could choose their favorite sites with their group. And so one group made a brochure about the Statue of Liberty. And here, as you see, Big Ben. So London was the choice of one group, Venice, and Taj Mahal. And so students were really excited, and before delivering their presentations, we discussed a lot. So they were using a lot of sources and asking questions. And also before they're presenting their posters, brochures, students and I together, we created a rubric for a brochure presentation. And Jill suggested also for assessing a very interesting idea. I think I will use it later also, like 50-50 contribution. And but in this project we used like categories: organization, teamwork, design, time management. And so as they knew the criteria of the presentation, so they tried to follow all these instructions. And I want to say that in the book also you can find some elements or some kinds of rubrics, and so it will be easy for teachers to use them as well. So that is all about my presentation. And I think this is the end of all our presentations. Now I think it's time for questions.
Thank you very much, Mirgulece. It's a wonderful book. Yes, some amazing activities and exercises.
Yeah, I agree with.
I would like to make a comment about how you created the rubric, because I want like the audience to kind of understand like something you said quickly. And you said the students and I made the rubric. Can you expand on that a little bit? What you're thinking about? Why did you include your students?
Yes, because it will be interesting for them to follow their own rules.
Exactly.
It was peer evaluation when they were presenting. Yeah, thank you, Jill, for this question. I forgot to mention that while presenting, they were evaluating each other. And after each presentation, they gave feedback to each other, asked some questions, so added some their suggestions. And so everyone was engaged there. Yeah.
Thank you. Jill, do you hear us?
Maybe she lost the connection.
Yes, I think so. So yes, thank you very much, everybody, for the amazing presentations. I think Jill will join us later. Maybe she's facing some technical issues. And now I would like to start with questions and comments, and I'm gonna read them one by one. So the first, everybody is really happy to see you all. So thank you. Like hello, Jill. Good to see you. Heidi, hello. Good morning from Brazil. Hello. Oh, Heidi, thank you very much for joining the session. Even it's
Thank you.
6 a.m. Brazil. There's a lot of comments. So let me find the question. Oh, yes. Jill.
Hello.
Oh, Jill. Thank you. So I started to show some comments and questions, and our top fan Heidi, she sent us a lot of comments, like the problem solution approach at the core of PBL. Nice overview of PBL, Jill. Humility, yes, you discover your gaps in knowledge. Students have to have skin in the game. I like that. Yes, individual student accountability in the group. Student, I think it's the same comment. Like 1 second. And I feel like in PBL we are higher up on the pyramid in Bloom's taxonomy in learning.
Definitely. We're working in creation and design, so we're at the top. But you know, I mean, again, like to point out, like Ibabu's project, like it was simple vocabulary, you know, it wasn't that difficult, but yet students gained a lot of skills that they're going to need as they work up through, you know, to the top of the pyramid.
Great. Thank you, Jill, for your comments. This is a very cool website for PBL. Oh, thank you, Heidi, for sharing this. Hello, dear ladies. Thanks for the presentation. And also, as Jill mentioned, for the brainstorming on a Padlet or for collaboration in general, students can use padlet.com. And we received this question. Are PBL activities conducted as additional activities? Because there are project works in some textbooks at schools, and many books do not have them. As you know, here we plan our classes based on textbooks. How can we organize them? Or can we design our lesson using PBL approach? It seems for me it takes some extra time, much time than the other tasks.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jill, for this question.
yeah, it does take more time, and that's one of the challenges with PBL, but maybe one of our other presenters who are in the classroom with students can speak to that.
May I add my thoughts also, ladies? I think in our system of teaching foreign languages, we have some gaps, kind of mistakes. Why? Because, for example, in our textbook, they give just few exercises and to cover new topic, to learn new vocabulary, and we never revise them again and again. But English is a foreign language for us, and we have to use it only, unfortunately, only in our class, but in our streets, in the cafe or in shop or at home, we never use English language, unfortunately. Most of the time, I mean, maybe few families, they can use English, but most of the families, they don't speak English, they don't understand it, and children, they just learn it for in one lesson, and on the next day they forget it. And it's our mistake. I think that we have to revise and revise all the materials that we learn in our lesson.
Thank you very much, Aitbaba.
Yes,
Jill?
I think Jill is again lost. Yeah. So about the question of Kenje Sultanbayeva, so really interesting question, because for project-based learning, we need really more time, much more time. But as for these textbooks, so they are they follow the syllabus, the curriculum, and extra time is given for these projects. That's why all the secondary school teachers can use their time properly. But as for the other maybe universities, so they can take some extra time, like student independent work, and use it for project-based learning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Virgulaje. The next question, again from Kenje Sultanbayeva. Do the teachers give some steps to complete in order to monitor them, or do students organize themselves?
So what steps so are under the consideration? Maybe the steps of the project. So I think it's better if the steps are provided by the book or by the teacher to make the project easier. And later, when students become confident, stronger, maybe we can give them chance to create steps themselves, because they will know the steps, how to start, where to make pause, and how to continue and finish their projects.
Thank you very much, Ece. Aypebu, do you have any comments to this question?
Okay, I will add my own idea, my own suggestion. What I experience in my teaching is that sometimes my students cannot finish or complete one project on time because they have some challenges to learn new words or to learn new grammar or to learn new topic. And I give them extra time and I monitor them how the things are going on, are they making any progress, improvements. And for those students who cannot finish on time, I give them an assessment like needs improvement, like they have to improve it and then they have to present it or re-demonstrate it, and then I give them a final assessment. So this is my experience.
Thank you, Aypebu. Jill, we are happy to see you again. Thank you. So we received one more question from Kinja Sultanbayeva. This question, maybe you have additional comments to it.
Yeah, I didn't hear what was already said, but I do believe that teachers do have to plan the steps. And it's like they have to plan the project, and that's like part of the teacher's new role. You know, it's like it's not just one lesson, it's a project, it's steps. So yeah, they do.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jill. So let me show you the next comment. Nice activities. This is a great example of PBL to use with children. So proud of all of you. Thank you for making a difference.
Thank you.
Can't wait for working with this book. Great job.
Yeah, I want to speak to this textbook too. Yeah, someone mentioned already that this Mirgal showed a list of the projects, and this textbook in 8th grade and a few other places, but in 8th grade we have a lot of projects, and I think it's a really good time. Students are like really enthused about projects, like at this age as well. Mm-hmm. They're really good projects. Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you, Jill. Great idea to use rubrics. Super. Thank you to all. You convinced me to do projects.
Thank you.
We're talking, that's from the Project Queen.
Yes, really nice and useful presentations. Thank you. And one more request, I think. Please give us more internet websites about PBL. Thank you very much.
I think I've seen in the comments, Heidi has posted quite a few that are really helpful. Yeah, if the comments will stay there, then I think Heidi's done our work for us. Thank you, Heidi, so much.
Thank you. And one more question from Heidi. How do you showcase your students' work after the completion of the project? And what about in an online environment?
Mm-hmm. I have something to say from an observation I did just last week of an Access class. The students had a project about writing a biography. And so they needed to tell a little bit about themselves, and they made videos. And they took videos like of the surroundings around their homes and like their family. They took some snapshots of their family. One family, they all had bathrobes on, and it was very staged, and it was very cute and funny. And so they an environment to to show, you know, each other. And it was really interesting and very interactive. So that's just one example.
Yes, and I think online
Anybody else?
Yeah, online environment gives more opportunities for sharing the product of PBL.
I think I'm frozen.
Much audience can see the works of the students. But in offline teaching, we can invite some guests or parents and show their projects to them. And in online, we can show it to a larger audience, and it will be even more fun or more interesting.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Merkulice. Oh, I think again Jill is frozen. So let me ask you the last question, I guess. How to motivate students who are new to PBL?
Mm-hmm. Aytubu, will you answer?
Sorry, can you repeat one more time? How can we motivate our students?
Yes, who are new to PBL?
Who are new to PBL? Okay, good question. I currently work at a private school, and we regularly get many new students, and they don't know how to do PBL project-based learning approach, and I just give them short information individually that PBL is this and this definition. I explain it, and then when I give the project-based tasks, I explain in the class, and then if the student have any questions, I always open to answer, and this is how I manage it.
Thank you very much, Aytubu.
I also ask from their peers to help to the new student if he has some challenges to learn how to do it. So, and it's not a problem at all.
Yeah. Pebu could conduct PBL with small kids, and that's why I think it's a great job. And why not to conduct it with secondary school students, with university students? And we can start with simple steps and then go to higher maybe tasks.
Oh, great. So is it applicable to all grades? Yes?
Yeah, but as for this national textbooks, they start projects from the sixth grade.
Sixth
From the
grade.
sixth.
I see.
Uh,
Thank you very
I,
much. Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yes, I think it was our last question. So unfortunately, Jill is facing some technical difficulties, I guess. But thank you very much, everyone, for this wonderful session. And it was really informative and great. And you are all great, wonderful, amazing teachers. Thank you very much. Jill, Nirkuleja, Aytadı. And
Thank you.
um, oh, can I ask one more question that we received now?
Yeah.
Sorry. Um, it's great when one student works with other students, mentoring them, which help to become more responsible and involved in the learning process.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's another one of those, secondary benefits. Yeah. Of project.
Thank you very much, dear guest speakers, and also dear viewers for your nice comments and questions. And now it's time to close up our session. So please stay healthy, stay positive, and see you in our next session. Bye bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye,
Thank
guys.
you. Bye bye.